Longhorn fans, Sooner Nation, welcome to episode 86 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. We've been doing this is our 86th episode, Kevin, of the Bevo Podcast. And this is the first time in 2 years that I have not wanted to do a podcast. I hate losing to Oklahoma State. I hate losing to Mike Gundy. I hate going to soccer games the day after and seeing bright hunter orange all over the soccer field with them walking around like the cock of the walk when they've never won anything in their pathetic, miserable existence. And yet, Kevin, I have to endure it. Do you know why I have to endure it? Because offensively, in the second half, we were god-awful terrible. And defensively, in the first half, we were god-awful terrible. And when you combine god-awful terrible plus god-awful terrible, it leaves you with a loss to Oklahoma State and Stillwater. And it sucks, Kevin. It sucks. And then, to top it all off, the University of Texas giving up 16 points in the fourth quarter on 2 turnovers. All they happen to do is secure a victory against Kansas State in overtime. You were feeling cocky. You were feeling great. The text messages from you to me were ones of smugness and cockiness and patronizing, and I respect it. I would be sending the same ones. And yet, all I could do is sit there and listen, because I was listening to the best voice in college football, Toby Rowland, the best analyst in college football, Ted Lehman, describe some of the worst sounding sounds in the whole game, which those are losing to Oklahoma State. It sucked.
I agree, man. Okay. Yeah, no, I feel your pain.
Boomer, have a great day. Boomer.
We're done? We're going to cut it there? Hey, that's a nice rant, though, man. And I feel your pain. Losing sucks. Losing to your rival sucks, especially to the little brother version of your rival, which is Oklahoma State. It sucks, man. There's so much to break down this game.
There's so much to break down. I did not realize this statistic until I started doing prep for the show today. We outrushed Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon went 33 for 137 and had 2 touchdowns. He was he did great. We did not have Danny Stutzman, did not have Jaron Kanek, rolled with Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie. Kevin, I thought they did great. 15 tackles for Kip Lewis.
Kanek was out there later in the second half. I did see Kanek out there, but we saw a lot of McKenzie and Kip Lewis. And to your point, I thought Kip Lewis was fantastic for y'all.
15 tackles, 9 solo tackles. McKenzie had 7 tackles and 2 solo tackles. I tell you, Robert Spears Jennings, actually played a great game in filling in for whoever was out in the secondary at any given time. He looked really good with 7 tackles. We contained Ollie Gordon. Did not stop him, but we contained him. We outrushed him. Okay? Sawchuk, however, and Walker combined for 21 carries. Ollie Gordon, one player, gets 33 carries and averaging 8.5 yards a carry for Sawchuk, 7.4 yards a carry for Walker, and we only run them 21 times. There has to
it was interesting, man. Yes, I didn't mean to cut you off there. It's interesting, but the game plan, it seemed like, right, because their weakness was their corners. You can hit big plays down the field. And that's what you guys attacked early. And you guys had some success, but it seemed like even though the running game was working, they were just so committed to throwing the ball down the field because I guess that was the game plan. My thing is the running game was working. Why would you get away from that?
Well, okay, here's where I don't know if this turns into a Jeff Lebby rant or I'm pissed at Jeff Lebby. Like, I really don't know. Something has to be going on with Sawchuk, Walker, and Javonte Barnes. Whether it has to be injury or something we don't know about. Because there is no excuse in the world unless that stuff's happening. If everything's fine, there's no excuse in the world for Walker to only get 8 carries. He had to be hurt, right? So you're like, okay. But then Sawchuk, dude, hit 67-yard run, longest run all year for a Sooner, 67-yard touchdown run. Nobody was even close. 13 carries, 111 yards, a touchdown, 8.5 yards a carry. And you only run it 13 times? 13 times? And you've got the lead in the fourth quarter? I don't know what's happening. So, again, it's like something just feels weird about it. I don't know. Is that a Levy conscious decision? We are not going to run the football. To your point, we're going to put it in DG's hands. Listen, Nick Anderson had some big drops. Ever since we lost Andrell Anthony at Texas, our passing game has struggled, okay? It's noticeable. He is becoming more and more important of an aspect of our game early in the season than he, now that we don't see him. But Drake Stoops, I don't know what else a kid can do. 12 catches, 131 yards, a touchdown. He was all over the field, competitive catches, over the middle catches, sideline catches. Look, we haven't even talked
He's
about
running some really good routes too. He's running some good routes out there.
Okay, hey, is he a professional player? Is he an NFL player?
You know what? I always thought he wasn't. But, I mean, the way he's looked this year, I'm telling you, some of those routes that he was running yesterday to get open, I mean, he had some of those DBs just in circles. He did a really good job, so potentially so.
We can't not talk about this in the opening segment, the non-call and the pass interference call. I don't have words to describe it, Kevin. I was listening to it on the radio at the soccer fields. Toby Rowland, Teddy Lehman, Gabe Eichert, Chris Plank were apoplectic, right? They could not handle themselves. And in my brain, I'm like, well, I don't know how bad it is. This is the homer call to an extent, And then you text me, other people start texting me. I finally get video of it. I just don't even know how to explain how that call's not made. It's right in front of the official. He's right there.
Neither do I. I mean, it's a good throw. It's a good route that he ran. Told you he'd been running some really good routes. And yeah, the DB just grabs him by the arm and then puts his hand across his chest and pulls him to the ground.
And he still makes the
right
catch.
In front of the official. He still made the catch. Yeah. It's right in front of the official. Sometimes these can be at weird angles, right? Like on these underthrown balls that the players are in between the ball and the official. So maybe he can't see it. But this one, he had a perfect angle. He's right there on the sidelines looking down at the play. And, the film deck at Boone Pickens Stadium is really high, so you can't see everything. So when the play happened, I assumed that there was a flag, but you couldn't see it because from that angle, you couldn't see the ref flag. Yeah. I'm just waiting to see the flag icon pop up on the field, and then nothing. Everybody's going nuts, and I understand it, man. I would have been livid had I been an OU fan.
It's the reason we lost is 3 turnovers. The reason we lost is because our last 4 drives were punt, fumble, field goal, and turnover on downs were we throw it short of the first down marker on 4th down.
Those are the reasons. Play call, by the way.
Stupid. It's stupid. Those are the reasons we lost. However, 1st and goal at the 2 versus taking a field goal is a ginormous difference.
I think it's a big difference.
The potential to take the lead, who knows what happens after that? Whatever. We're going to set that aside. We are going to come back to this game because there is a lot to break down. We'll do that in a normal breakdown spot. Let's talk a little bit about the ginormous win by Texas, holding on to beat K-State. You dominated the entire game. Malik Murphy was dropping dimes to A.D. Mitchell. Brooks ran for over 100 yards. Yet when it mattered in the fourth quarter, the turnover bug hit. Malik Murphy with a bad interception, really bad interception. Jonathan Brooks, of all people, on a 3rd down, fumbles the ball. You allow them to score 16 points in the fourth quarter. Really, a lot of it, I think you did a lot. Your defensive line was very, very aggressive. A lot of it, though, could have been Kansas State's poor play calling for them not to go ahead and win the game. I didn't mind them going for it on 4th down in overtime. You're on the road, want to go ahead and try and win it. But I thought the play call was terrible, and the ones that led up to that were terrible. That being said, you survive and advance, 33-30. Thoughts on the game?
Yeah. At this point, right, it's just win and move on. It was a pretty crazy game because we started off and we were just completely dominating, right? Going up and down the field. They can do nothing offensively. We know what Kansas State's about. They love to run the football. They do a great job of it. I think they have the number one rushing offense in the conference going into the game, and we completely shut it down. The only issue I had is in the first half is Texas not taking advantage of their opportunity to put this team away. They go up, they're up 17-0. They could have been up legitimately 31-0
Yeah.
in the first half. And then
Yes.
K-State would have known they have no chance. They have no chance of coming back down from 31. We started making mistakes in the red zone, of course. We can't finish drives. We had some interesting play calls on fourth down that didn't work. I don't mind some of the decisions, but the play calling wasn't great. Get a punt block. They go down and get a touchdown right before halftime. Still a little bit of momentum going in, 17-7. They come out, score right away. But we get the interception, actually, right, to begin the first half, but we're doing nothing offensively. Man, again, I'm kind of frustrated because we should have won this game probably by 3 scores.
Take the win, dude.
But,
take the win.
Hold on,
I'm telling you.
But I'm saying,
Oklahoma fan would take the win right now.
I feel great about being 8-1 and getting out of there with the win. Right? They changed their entire offense. They started throwing the ball. They're getting open, making big plays, and those turnovers were just killer from Malik Murphy. Man, I like the kid. He throws a better deep ball than Quinn Ewers. You saw that. He's just a young guy. He's making some horrible decisions out there. That interception, the one on the deep pass that he threw, okay, right? That's fine. It's like a punt, right? But man, that screen pass one, and to give it to him right there in their red zone. And then, like you said, the guy never fumbles the football. To fumble in that moment, give them a possession in the red zone, and of course they score right there. Honestly, we were lucky if they missed that extra point after that last touchdown.
Yeah,
because they would have had the lead, and I don't know if we would have scored. Right,
Yeah.
so we got a little bit lucky with them missing the extra point. Then they missed the field goal.
Well, I thought
again.
We both thought it was over. We're texting back and forth. We're like, "Well, that's over." And then they hold you on 3 downs, and
And the third down, I hated the third down call. Taking out Brooks and giving it to Baxter there. I just didn't like it. And of course, they make the 45-yard field goal, right, to send it to overtime. But I'm really glad with the way our defense played on that series. I actually did not like the decision for them to
really?
go for the touchdown. No, I thought they should have kept the game going because I felt like the longer the game would have gone on, it would have favored them with their offense and Will Howard over Malik Murphy being so shaky. The running game hadn't been great. So I personally didn't like the decision for them. Usually I'm all about teams being aggressive, especially against us, but I didn't like the decision there, especially from where they were on the field too.
Look, ifs and buts, right? I mean, they kicked the field goal there, and who knows, whatever happens. I think that the overtime rules have kind of changed it for me. That you don't really want to play for another overtime. I mean, you only get one more overtime, and then by then you're doing 2-point conversions anyway. So you're basically in a 2-point conversion. You're on the road. You can't guarantee that you're going to have that chance again to beat you guys. Like one play, you get one play. You've been moving the ball, one play to beat you. I really don't mind. I just thought the play call was weird. It looked like he was going to throw a short. I don't know.
What they tried to do this little deal where they had a receiver on the outside, and then they had the tight end on the inside, and they tried to kind of run them across each other. And Texas was playing zone, so I think they tried to confuse them. To have the corner take a false step, and it just didn't work. And then the pressure got there, and it was over.
I tell you what, when your defensive line decides they want to play football, they play football. Your defensive line, when they decide they want to play, they're as good a defensive line as in the country.
Yeah,
but there's
Sweat was just unblockable, man.
But there's periods sometimes where they kind of go to sleep, or maybe they just. I don't know what the right word is. I'm not trying to.
They've been good on the interior all year, but it's on the edges where they've been.
Yeah.
There's times, man, where the quarterback is just able to just stand there and just go through all his progressions and then go back to his first progression again. Because we can get no pressure. But yeah, Tavondre Sweat, I mean, I thought he was the best player in the game for Texas. They could not handle him. And they've got good guards. Cooper Beebe, I mean, we're talking about a potential first-round pick at guard. And they just had their way on the interior all game long. Like I said, we know Kansas State is all about running the football. They had 33 yards rushing against Texas. I mean, 33 yards rushing on 22 attempts.
So
I'm excited about that.
It underlines, though, what turnovers do to you. Like
exactly,
you can play
and have them back to back.
You can play a tremendous football game. But if you have turnovers, it's the great neutralizer. It gives a team like K-State a chance to win. All right, we're going to come back to K-State and Texas because that will be as interesting a game to break down because it at this point means more. This puts Texas square in the sight of a potential playoff run. So we've got to break that down. Looking around the country, Ohio State over Rutgers 35-16. It was a ball game for a little bit. Rutgers looks like they got a pretty good defense actually under Shiano.
They do.
But Ohio State pulls away. Georgia, Missouri. I actually get the cover on this. Missouri covers. Georgia wins. Missouri looked good, and they hung in there for a while.
Did.
I mean, Georgia.
They were in it, the whole time. It's just Georgia, man, right?
Yeah.
Great effort.
It was a good effort. You kind of wonder what Missouri would have been like on the road, potentially, if Missouri was hosting. But in the end, Georgia pulls it out. They continue to look good. Michigan beats Purdue 41-13. Florida State rolls 24-7. Many Sooner fans out there are wondering how it took me 5 games to get to Washington versus the University of Southern California, taking down Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams 52-42, taking USC to 7-3 on the year. Michael Penix Jr. goes 22 of 30 for 256 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. Caleb Williams, 27 for 35, 312 yards, 3 touchdowns. The player of the game, however, is Dylan Johnson, 26 carries for Washington, 256 yards. USC's defense is god-awful terrible. Caleb Williams did everything he possibly could, but the dude doesn't play safety, linebacker, or defensive line, and that hurts USC. Here's the deal. Washington wins. We talked a little bit about this off air. I'm not sure Washington is the best team in the Pac-12, but they have the best record in the Pac-12. They're undefeated, and that's what matters. We've got to talk Caleb Williams, though. Jumping in your mother's arms and crying as a 21-year-old kid or young adult, as it were, is a bit much for me. Okay? My son Jeffrey used to wrestle, and he was 12. And if you've ever been to a wrestling tournament, these boys cry all the time. They wrestle, they get beat, they cry. It's like everywhere. It's an epidemic of crying, and it bugs the crap out of me. And he used to come off the mat like trying to start crying, and I was like, stop. You're tougher than that. Accept defeat. Don't get bitter, get better. I don't want to see this crying stuff. My 12-year-old daughter, if she was going to come off the soccer field crying, I would tell her, stop freaking crying. We don't cry when we lose. I got to tell you, Kevin, it grossed me out to see him being cuddled by his mother and sobbing. It was gross. I don't even know any other words to describe it. People are going to say, look how much he cares. I don't care. I don't care. He is 21 years old, and he's being cuddled, and it was too much, dude. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're about to say, but it was too much.
No, I get where you're coming from. Seriously. I'm not going to tell. No, listen. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to say you're wrong. The only thing is, in his defense, I don't know what he may be going through in his life besides losing a football game. You know what I'm saying? Like, he lost a football game. It's an emotional game, but I don't know if that's the reason why he's crying. He's lost football games before. He's lost several football games before. And I don't think any of those he had a reaction like this. He's having a great individual season. Obviously, the team success is not what he thought it would be. Okay. But I just don't know. He could be going through anything.
Let me ask you this. Okay, here's the follow-up to that, because I think maybe you're right, and you bring up a good point. What else could be going on? Now, I don't think this is the case, but was this his last game as a USC Trojan, and he knew it?
So you think, like, potentially he sits out the rest of the year?
I'm saying, maybe he knows his college career is over, and it was very emotional. Come on, man. It was weird, though, right? I mean, like,
it was, right? Like, I guess because, and who knows? Maybe he saw his mom there, went to go hug her. We see hold on, hear me out. Every game you watch, if you watch after the game, right? When the game's over, the players go, they find their families, they hug their families. Again, My thought is he's probably going through something else that's completely unrelated to football. Maybe they had a death in the family, right? Did you see the Washington player crying during the game because he had lost his dad? He's crying on the sidelines
Okay, listen.
after making a play.
I hear you. I hear you. And anything is possible. We don't know what's going on in somebody's life. We really, really don't. Dude, he was like in his mom's lap. And she's
Yeah.
like holding him like a baby while he's crying. Listen, we all have
Yeah.
sports tears. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. Sports tears are real. Like you lose, you lose. That's fine. This is not, look, losing to Washington is not a bad loss. Washington is a top 5 team in the country, maybe a top 3 team in the country. It's not a bad loss. You went 27-35 for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns. You were the second best player on the field. You did your job. I just and then his press
and
conference.
I think that's why, and I think that's why I think there's something else going on because he knows that. He knows that.
I kind of because here's the other situation too, is NIL changes things. We've been talking about this for 2 years now. NIL changes things. I don't want to see you on the Nissan Heisman house, acting all cocky with, Kyler Murray and who's the guy, Tim Tebow and all this stuff, and then balling on the sidelines. Like we're supposed to treat you like a kid who just cares about the game. It's different now. I just don't like
know.
it.
Again, I'm not arguing with you at all.
Would you climb up can we expect if you win the national championship this year for you to crawl up in your mom's lap and cry?
You mean me individually?
You individually. If you win the national championship.
That would not happen.
Even if you win the national championship?
You're correct.
I might crawl up in my mom's lap and cry if I win the national. It'd be amazing.
I don't think so. Did you cry in 2000 or were you too young for that, right?
Dude, listen, I didn't cry in 2000. I thought it was going to be the first of many. I should have cried. All right.
Have you ever cried? Hold on real quick. Have you ever cried after a football game, win or loss? I'm talking about an OU game, not a game.
No, the only game I've ever cried over, and I've gone off on this before, was when I was 10 years old and Oklahoma lost to Kansas in the NCAA finals to lose the national championship game.
Yeah, 10, that's emotional.
88-84. My daughter Lilia cried after Philadelphia lost the Super Bowl. She was devastated, and I felt horrible for her because same age. I'd been there. So yes, I have cried when I was 10, and I think my dad said, I'm pretty sure my dad said, "Stop crying." I've
never cried after the heartbreaking losses for Texas.
You're more of a man than I am.
No. I'm talking about just as I almost cried after the '95 conference finals. Spurs lost to the Rockets. Almost.
I hate the Rockets.
Who
was our point guard? Was Avery Johnson that year?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. It was the team with Rodman and Sean Elliott, J.R. Reed, Robinson won MVP. We got smoked by Hakeem.
For 2 years, he was the best player on the planet.
He was.
Staying in the Pac-12, Oregon beats the living crap out of Cal, 63-19. Bo Nix goes for 386 yards and 4 touchdowns. USC plays Oregon next week.
Yes.
Whose lap is he going to jump into? Man. Whose lap is he going to jump into next week and cry?
This is going to be a rough one.
Alabama. Here's what I said. Here was my take. If it gets into a shootout, I trust LSU's offense over Alabama's offense. So if it gets into a shootout, LSU is going to win this game going away. I was wrong. Jalen Milroe absolutely balled out. You've got the stats, and I'm going to let you read the stats. But the big stat was 4 rushing touchdowns. The guy was very, very efficient, but running the ball, he was just on another level. I mean, that is like Vince Young type stuff, Lamar Jackson type stuff.
It was great to watch, man. I've been a big Jalen Milroe fan since he was in high school when he committed to Texas. 15-23, 219 yards. Nothing crazy right through the air, but on the ground, 20 carries, 167 yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns, man.
He thoroughly outplayed Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels was great too, though.
He statistically destroyed him. He just statistically destroyed Jaden Daniels.
Well, actually, they had their stats were virtually identical. We said Milroe 15-23 for 219 yards, Daniels with 15 to 24 for 219 yards. And then we talked about the rushing yards, right? Jalen Milrow, 20 carries for 167 yards. He had 11 carries for 167 yards as well. It's crazy how they both had 167 yards rushing, 219 yards passing. There's no way that's ever happened before, right?
It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable stat, and it was a very fun game to watch. If you were watching a football game, that was a really, really, really fun game to watch. Those were, Alabama though. Okay, listen, following the Texas loss and then their struggles against South Florida, people were saying it's a down year for Nick Saban. Milrow's the worst quarterback he's ever had. Is he on the backside of his dynasty? Are we going to bury Nick Saban? He's sitting at 7-1, 8-1 in the lead, sole lead in the SEC West. Most likely going to play against Georgia. I got to tell you, they roll up against Georgia right now, the way Milrow's playing. I don't know what that line is, but I bet it's not outside of single digits.
Yeah, it's a game. It's definitely a game if they play against Georgia. It's been quite remarkable, right? I mean, we all had them buried, not me, but a lot of people had them buried after the Texas loss, and especially like you said, that South Florida performance, winning 17-3 on the road. The offense was horrible. Remember they benched Jalen Milrow for that game, which I thought was a horrible decision. And apparently Nick Saban agreed with that because Jalen Milrow was back in the starting lineup the very next week. But I mean, they've beaten Ole Miss. They won at A&M. They beat Arkansas. They beat Tennessee, and now they've beaten LSU. And they beat Tennessee and LSU both by 2 touchdowns, right? So now they've got at Kentucky. Then they play Chattanooga, and then they play the Iron Bowl on the road against Auburn. That's the only thing in the way between them and the SEC championship game again. So, yeah, really one of Nick Saban's greatest coaching jobs, right? Because this is not, from a roster standpoint, not the most talented team that he's had when you look at who's actually on the field. But they just keep finding a way to get it done. And as a Texas fan, I hope they keep winning because it helps our schedule keep looking good. So,
well, it helps your schedule look good, and it just validates your season. It absolutely does validate your season. Now, you can make the argument, was Milrow playing where he wanted to, was he playing as good as he's playing, offensive call and all that? It doesn't matter. As good as they're looking right now, it's still the same athletes. Hey, Kevin, guess what? I got a text message just now. Normally I don't check text message during this show, but something said, hey, John, check your text messages. And guess what? Alex Grinch officially fired. Southern California.
Whoa.
How do you like that? Breaking news right here on the Boomer Bevo podcast. Most people, by the time you're listening, you're going to think to yourself, well, this is old news. I'm listening to this, later this evening. No, we're breaking it first right here on the Boomer Bevo. We should be doing this live, Kevin, because we just broke it.
My thing, hold on real quick, going back to the Alex Grinch thing, it makes you wonder, right, with him. I get why he had to keep Mike Stoops initially, right? You can't take the job from Bob Stoops and then initially, fire his brother. But, with Grinch, I don't understand why he took him to USC. You can build your staff with whoever you want. Why would you bring him with you? And why would you keep him after last year too? Nothing about it makes sense.
Because he was in an absolute hurry to get out of Norman and panicked and brought his staff and said he tried to mend fences by bringing his staff. He didn't want to. He doesn't like to hurt feelings. He doesn't like to hurt feelings. He's afraid to have those tough conversations, and that's, if you're Caleb Williams, you're sitting here thinking, I'm one of the best college football players ever, and I will never play for a conference champ. Oh, I'll never win a conference championship, let alone play in a national, let alone play in a playoff.
Disappointing, man.
It's disappointing, and you can put it on Grinch, and that's fine. And I do think he sucks as a defensive coordinator. We've seen it plenty of times. It's not going to change until Lincoln Riley decides to do something different, in terms of total team scheme. But whatever, breaking news, he did it. Back to scores. Ole Miss beats out A&M 38-35. Listen, when the Kansas State-Texas game was going into overtime, the multi-view was never more important than it was when K-State and Texas are in overtime, Ole Miss and A&M, A&M's driving, and then Oklahoma had kicked off against Oklahoma State. The YouTube multi-view was fantastic. I had all of those games going. It felt really good. This is, of course, before we lost, and I put my head in the sand. But the multi-view was doing its job. I had an eye on this game. A&M actually played a really pretty good game.
They did.
But I'm not sad to see Jimbo lose.
Yeah, they did a good job. Right? They were in it. They were fighting to the end. And again, a field goal away from tying it and sending it into overtime, get tipped. There you go. It's a bad season, though. Rough season for them.
Yeah, feels terrible for him. Hey, real quick, I was going to mention this score. Oregon State beats Colorado 26-19. You have talked about this before. Do you think A&M, just now that Colorado is at 4-5, A&M would still be interested in Coach Prime?
I think they would. Yeah.
You do?
I do. Okay. Yeah, I think he's still doing a good job. They just don't have enough good players, especially in the trenches where it truly matters, right? I'll be concerned when they get blown out by a team they shouldn't get blown out by. They've been in every single game besides the Oregon game. And we all know what Oregon is about now, and they were incredibly motivated for that game. You would have thought they were playing Oregon State or something like that, how fired up they were to play Colorado. So until that happens, then I'll be concerned about, Coach Prime as a coach, because the team keeps showing up ready to play every week, despite their massive disadvantage from a talent standpoint.
I'll tell you what, Coach Prime with those recruits that are there at A&M right now, those players, the talent that's on that team.
Yeah.
It would be something to see. Penn State beats Maryland 51-15. Louisville throttles Virginia Tech. Clemson in the Dabo Swinney Redemption Tour beats Notre Dame 31-23. They rush the field. I don't know, dude. I'm not a big rush the field guy when you're 5-4. Like, to me, it's pretty weird.
And you beat Notre Dame. It's not you beat Alabama.
Notre Dame's got 3 losses on the year, 2 losses. 3 losses on the year.
They got 3 losses now. They lost to Duke. They lost to Ohio State. I think they had another loss too. So yeah, lost to Louisville. It's their 4th loss of the year.
Yeah, it's just a weird. It's like, okay, we all.
Yeah, I know they've been struggling a little bit, but yeah, beating Notre Dame at home is absolutely no reason to rush the field. When's the last time you guys rushed the field in Norman?
Nebraska.
2000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
exactly. 23 years.
Yeah,
you
beat number 1 Nebraska. You beat number 1 Nebraska.
Yes, this is Eric Crouch competing for national championship every season.
I'm not get off my football field guy, right? No, I don't really normally care about rushing the field. I just think in this scenario it's weird.
It's absurd.
Yeah,
don't rush the field after beating a 3-loss Notre Dame team.
Yeah, it's dumb.
I've never seen Texas rush the field.
What? Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't think I have either. Tennessee beats UConn. They roll them. Utah beats Arizona State. Utah finally has an offensive performance. You wonder where this has been all year. 55-3. Arizona upsets UCLA.
State,
yeah. Arizona upsets UCLA 27-10. In the Big 12, Kansas beats Iowa State 28-21. Air Force gets beat down by Army 23-3. They had a firm grip on the Commander's Cup. I don't know what that does to this now. And then in news of teams that OU is going to play next week, it's not good. West Virginia blows out BYU 37-7. Beat West Virginia 4-2 in the Big 12, the exact same record as OU. I am not excited about. We were going to talk plenty about the West Virginia game on Wednesday, but that is not a good omen that they're rolling teams 37-7, and we're reeling off after 2 losses. Big 12 standings real quick. Texas at the top, 5-1. Oklahoma State 5-1. KU, OU, K-State, WVU, ISU are all at 4-2. The problem is OU is really the one behind the 8 ball here because they've already lost to Kansas and Oklahoma State. So the odds of both of them losing multiple games, they're not mathematically eliminated, but I think Oklahoma is effectively eliminated, right? I just can't imagine.
It's not good. I mean, you'll need Texas to lose.
Yeah.
It's
not. I guess you're right. Man. I guess you're right. If Texas loses, we actually have the tiebreaker over Texas, right? Because it's
because you have the tiebreaker against us. But
your argument is that we have a better chance to catch Texas.
You haven't heard me say one time that Texas is a shoe-in to make this Big 12 championship game.
You're getting closer.
I'm still not saying that.
Getting closer. Well, here's your issue, right? So Oklahoma State, who's at the top of the league with you, here's who they play. Listen to their last 3 games. UCF, Houston, and BYU. Kevin, here's the last 3 games for Oklahoma State and Texas, okay? Oklahoma State plays UCF, Houston, and BYU. That's 3 wins, dude. I don't know any other way around
Yeah,
it.
you'd have to think so, man. Unless they just have a stinker of a game. Yeah, that's 3
Now
wins for them.
Now you, on the other hand, TCU, they're not TCU
On the
from
road.
last year. Iowa State, they're at 4-2.
road.
And Texas Tech, they'll be fired up. We think that there's some talent there, but man, they're terrible, right? 3-3. I mean, it's a tougher schedule than what Oklahoma State has, but you have to feel really good with where you're at right now.
You know, I feel good about where we're at now, but I'm just not just assuming, man, because the thing about Texas, they've been very consistent, right? And what I mean by consistent, I don't mean consistently great. I mean they've been consistent with who they are, right? They're going to score 30 points. They scored 30 points literally every game this year. But at the same time, they've blown leads multiple times throughout the year. It's a close game with them seemingly every week, other than maybe 2 or 3 examples. But other than that, it's going to be a close game, and I expect that literally against TCU. I expect it against Iowa State, and the same thing against Texas Tech. Now, I like the fight that we've shown to be able to win these close games, but I do expect these to be close games.
Update on our standings. I took some swings this week with Missouri, and with LSU. The LSU one didn't work out. The Missouri one did. So you won Bama. I lost. I won Missouri. You lost. We both won Washington. I won Texas and you lost. You had picked Texas to cover. And then we both picked Oklahoma State to cover. So I don't know. A silver lining, I guess. You are standing 30, 18-2. I'm 27, 21-2. Kevin, we are pretty good at picking games. We are pretty damn good at picking games. Before we talk about the Bedlam matchup in Stillwater, we have a couple of people we want to shout out on the sponsorship list. I want to start with a guy, Tim Haas, owner of Lawns Like Greens. You can check him out at lawnslikegreens.com. He's been doing work around the house here, Kevin. And I got to tell you, his landscaping and outdoor projects and his ability and the team he has is second to none. So I want to give a shout out. It's Sunday, dude. He's out here working on a Sunday. Didn't ask him, didn't expect it. And he's like, oh man, weather's good. I'm working. So you need any work around down the house? I know they treat yards. Give lawnslikegreens.com a ping into your phone. Give those guys a ring. Tim Haas is going to do a great job for you. Also, we can't not mention Brown O'Haver. Brown O'Haver and the owner of Brown O'Haver, Alice Young, wants to congratulate the Mountain View Toros of Mesa, Arizona, and specifically Larissa Skinner. She plays tight end and linebacker on the 2023 state championship Arizona flag football team. Okay, so the state of Arizona made flag football an official high school sport this year in the inaugural season. Larissa and her team won a state championship in flag football. How freaking sweet is that?
Oh, that's awesome, man. You gotta love that.
Dude, she's big time. Oh, dude, state in anything. I would take state in anything. It's so rad. So congratulations, Larissa Skinner. You're a baller. Soccer season's coming up, though. We need another state championship in the spring, or it all meant nothing. Kevin, what do you want to talk? You want to talk Bedlam, or you want to talk Texas, Kansas State?
Man, let's get into this Bedlam, man.
All right.
I'll let you get out some of your frustrations here.
Listen, in the first half, I was not happy with the way the defense was producing or allowing Oklahoma State to produce. One of the things I said in the preview was, if you remember, I said we have to contain Ollie Gordon and not turn Alan Bowman into the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. We contained Ollie Gordon within reason. What we did, however, was turn Alan Bowman into a potential candidate for Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. He went 28 of 42 for 334 yards. Coming into the game, he had a season-long QBR of 59. Okay, against Oklahoma, he has a QBR of 91.3. His receivers, Owens and Presley, were making plays all over the field. We just did not do a good job. Now, Gentry Williams is a little bit hurt. Stutzman's not in there. I think there's you can make some injury. We don't have Pearson in the first half, which I think affected a lot of that passing game because the second half he wasn't nearly as effective, but they still moved the ball. But here's the thing. Once the second half starts, we get them in the third quarter. We turn them over on downs. 4th and 1, we stop Ollie Gordon with 10 minutes left in the third quarter. 4th and 1, we stop Ollie Gordon again with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. And then with 14 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Billy Bowman makes a huge interception and returns the ball 40 yards. Kevin, the defense played well enough in the second half to give Oklahoma a chance to win the game. They played well enough in the second half to give Oklahoma a chance to win a game. I don't care what you ask for in a defense. If they give you a chance to win it, the offense has to go produce. As I said, in the fourth quarter, last 4 drives, punt, fumble, field goal, downs. You can't win. You can't win.
And those turnovers, man, the turnovers killed you guys.
Oh, okay. Let's get into that. Okay, so I've seen different takes on this, so I'm interested to hear your take on it. All right, so OSU scores, and then Oklahoma scores with Gavin Sawchuk's run. And then we stop them, okay? And they have to punt to us. We get into some trouble. It's 3rd and 13. Somehow we scheme Nick Anderson wide open, right, on 3rd and 13. He catches it in the flat, and he runs for 25, 30 yards, just wide open, and gets down – we get down to the 30 or the 25 or something like that. Okay, so now we've run up and down the field on them in the first drive. We've just had a really big play running our regular offense now in this second drive. And Javonte Barnes is lined up behind the center. Dylan Gabriel is offset right. And it appears that it's a direct snap to Javonte Barnes, and he juggles it, tries to tip it to Dylan Gabriel, who doesn't get it. They lose it, and Oklahoma State eventually goes on to score and go up 14-7. My question to you, Kevin, is initially I'm thinking this is some sort of stupid-ass trick play by Jeff Levy, because it's like, why would we do this? It is inexplicable that we're moving the ball. We have them on their heels. Why are we doing direct snaps and stupid stuff? If we want to run them, just run them. Some people have made the argument on Twitter that it was an alignment issue. Barnes was never expecting the ball. It wasn't supposed to go to Barnes, and the center snapped it to the wrong guy because they were lined up incorrectly. Outside looking in, taking the emotion away from it and taking away, my feelings of Jeff Levy, what did you see on that play, and what do you think happened?
I thought it was a design to go to Barnes, right? Like, I just can't see an experienced quarterback like Dylan Gabriel not being lined up properly behind the center and not making sure his running back is lined up properly. One thing about the kind of offense that you run, you run a lot of tempo. And when you're running tempo, the last thing the quarterback has to do before he snaps the ball, no matter how fast you're going, is to make sure everybody's set, right? So you don't get a motion penalty, right?
Which our receivers had three illegal motion or even an encroachment penalty on one. Two on Farouk and one on Stoops. Those were
uncharacteristic, right?
Those really hurt us. But go ahead. You're right. Okay, go ahead.
Right, but I just can't imagine him not being lined up behind the center properly.
If it was supposed to come to him, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah. I thought it was some sort of trick play. I don't know what or why, but these coordinators, they try to get cute, right? They try to do these kind of trick plays, and sometimes they just don't work. Now, the problem was just the execution. You can't turn the ball. Even if the play doesn't work, you can't turn the ball over, right? We saw them do something very similar with Ollie Gordon. I don't know what he was thinking throwing that ball up like that. It's like, bro, you're not playing against the JV squad at Euless Trinity High School. This is Billy Bowman back there patrolling the secondary. You can't just throw that ball up for grabs.
I think it was either But here's the deal. Okay, let me ask you this. So you say that it has to be a direct snap because Gabriel's not going to make that mistake. Did you get the feeling that it looked like it was supposed to be a snap and then a pitch to Gabriel? Because that's almost like what his motion looked like.
That is exactly what it looked like. It looked like he got the ball and then tried to hand it to Gabriel. So I don't know if he panicked when it was bobbled and tried to hand it off to him. I don't know, man. The whole thing was a disaster, whatever
Okay.
it was supposed to be.
The execution was clearly terrible. Javonte Barnes has not been a good football player for us this year. Okay. I thought he was going to be a 1,000-yard rusher coming into the season. It's not happened, whether it's injury or whatever. The guy's not having a good season. In addition, why are you calling that stupid ass play when you have all the momentum? If you want to run it, line up and run it. If you want to pass it, pass it. You just had a 60-yard pass play on 3rd and 13. They're on their heels. You're going to have a chance to go up 14-7 and take an early swing right in their face. And you're doing that? It's so stupid. So if we've established that it's a trick play, it was stupid.
Correct.
Bless America. 13 carries for Sawchuk, 8 for Walker. We've talked about this already. We outrushed Ollie Gordon. If somebody said we outrushed Ollie Gordon and it wasn't because of Dylan Gabriel, I would be like, wow, that's pretty good. Like, I'm pretty stoked about that. And yet they only got the ball 21 carries. You know, they're still feeding the ball to Barnes a couple too many times. It doesn't make sense to me, Kevin. I don't understand it.
And
Oklahoma State's not a good.
No, they're not that good, man. We've made fun of Mike Gundy over the years, right? And he's given us a lot of reasons to. But the thing about Mike Gundy is when he has good players, he gives them the ball over and over and over and over again. 33 carries for Ollie Gordon. He's their best player. We give him the ball until they stop it. And even when you're stopping him, they still are giving him the ball.
Yeah.
Rashad Owens, 17 targets yesterday. 17 targets for this dude. Yeah. San Antonio, Texas, by the way.
Oh, really?
Roosevelt High School. Yeah, Roosevelt High School.
I just met an alumnus from Roosevelt High School. Soccer mom Cindy's mom, Cindy, her mom graduated from Roosevelt High School back in the day. Funny. That's a funny coincidence. There you go, Cindy's mom. Owens. Yep.
Probably I mean, he gives his guys the ball, right? They've had those good receivers over the years, and he just continues to feed them and feed them and feed them. This was a game. It would have been nice to see OU give the ball to Sawchuk more, give the ball to Walker more. But with that being said, you did have 344 yards passing. You had a big game from Drake Stoops, big game for Farouk, 7 for 98. A couple of big plays. I know we had a couple of drops too, Nick Anderson, but still 3 for 92. The problem, it was the timing of some of the play calls.
Yes, which continues to be the issue, right? We talk about this because if you look statistically at Levy's offense, there's very little to complain about. You have a quarterback that throws for 344 yards. You rush for 148 yards. Your leading receiver has 134 yards and a touchdown. It seems to be a very balanced attack. You feel really good about it. Yet when you need it to happen, okay, within the timing of the game, it just fails to materialize and seems off-putting and weird.
Correct. And I know we'll get to it, but that last play on 4th down, I mean,
what are we doing, Kevin?
I hated that play worse than the trick play, worse than any play in the game. That is a play. It was 4th and 5, right? It's 4th and 5. That play is a play that you run when it's 4th and 1. And if you can't run the ball, that's when you run that play.
Yeah.
You run it on 4th and 2, maybe 3. But you don't run that on 4th and 5. A sprint out to the flat. You don't do that to pick up 5 yards.
It's a 2-point conversion play.
Correct.
It's a 2-point conversion play. Yeah.
I hated it. I know after the game, he's like, we would have liked to have 1 more yard, the route to be a little bit deeper. There's no time to run 5 yards and get outside.
Yeah,
it doesn't work like that.
It just didn't. It didn't make sense.
It was never going to work. You could see it from the jump as soon as he threw the ball. There was no way he was going to be able to catch that ball and get upfield. You don't call a play to where he has to catch it and get upfield to get a first down.
No.
I thought it was just a horrible call. That one, if I'm an OU fan, that one bothers me worse than the trick play, than anything that I saw the entire game.
Well, and you
from a play calling standpoint.
again, you could even, I don't think this argument's very good, but one could even make the argument, give it to him in space and allow him to beat a man and try to get the first down, right? So
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, but not a 3-yard hitch. Like you're turning away from the first down line, right? Your momentum is taking you sideways. It's not like they ran a bubble and he's catching it and moving towards the first down marker where he can make a move and try to get to the sideline or whatever. No, he's running and then coming back almost
towards the sideline. Yeah.
All his momentum is going in the wrong direction. So even if he catches it, it doesn't matter. So it's a bad play call. It's a bad play call. And to your point, okay, maybe it wasn't executed the way they drew it up, but that play isn't ever executed that way. You don't run it. You don't run a 7-yard.
Run it on 4th and 5. Yeah, correct. You don't have time to go all the way 5 yards, or really it needs to go 6 yards. Even if it's 4th and 5, the route needs to go 6 yards and out. And on a sprint out, the timing is not going to work when it's that deep. So for the game to end like that, and for you guys to lose this game,
it was fitting
on the road. Yeah, it was. And again, now you give little brother the scoreboard forever.
I know.
Look, we've held this. We Texas fans have held this over A&M for the last decade, and we're the big brother in this rivalry. Can you imagine how they're going to be forever? You can't tell them anything now. They'll be like, 27-24, 27-24. 3 years from now, 27-24.
And you can't even, and that's the problem, right? As an Oklahoma fan or any sports fan of the opposing team, it just sounds so weak to go, well, yeah, but the last 2 times we lost you, we had pass interference in the end zone, which is true. That wasn't called. And
it is absolutely true.
Caleb Williams probably wins it for us in that game. And then also in this game, we probably have it at the 2-yard line and we take the lead. I don't know if we hold on to win or not, but we probably do. The problem is, you can't say it. I get it.
No.
But my God, that was a bad call, Kevin. It was just a really, really, really bad call. And or no call, I guess, in this case. I don't know, dude. I don't know where Oklahoma goes from here. We've been, you play a game against Texas where you think to yourself, we can play with anybody in the country. Play with anybody in the country. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen what Sweat has done on your defensive line. We've seen what A.D. Mitchell has done, Xavier Worthy, Jonathan Brooks. I mean, your team is loaded. There is not smoke and mirrors with your team. If anything, it's your team that holds itself back, right? Let's just be honest. If anybody's holding Texas back, it's Texas holding Texas back.
Yeah, Texas is Texas' biggest opponent.
Yeah, because sometimes they just do dumb stuff. But for Oklahoma, we play that game and we're thinking to ourselves, my God, maybe we are good. And then we struggle mightily against a UCF team that we had no reason struggling against at home. It takes us a failed 2-point conversion to win that game. You go to Kansas where everything goes wrong. You still have a chance to win it. You can't win it. And then now you play an Oklahoma State team who, Kevin, Ollie Gordon's a hell of a player. If somebody wants to give Ollie Gordon the Heisman right now, I got no argument with that. But you kept him in check. The problem is you let Alan Bowman throw it all over the field. And then when it came down to it, you couldn't execute to get one final score. And
and that's my thing too, right? I think, the defense, while they did give you a chance, but man, you can't give that many passing yards up to.
I don't disagree, but
to him. And Mikey, you know why I hate playing Oklahoma State though?
Why does Texas?
We always have. First of all, Gundy coaches out of his mind and just lets it fly. Basically, Gundy for once in his tenure kind of coached free. He just let it ride. Right, some of those routes that they were calling, but they always have guys like Brennan Presley, these little 5'8" guys who just get open. There was a play where he ran a route that was short of the sticks. He was kind of juggling the ball.
Yeah.
Panic. A linebacker is ripping away at the ball while he's trying to control it. Not only does he hold on to the ball, but he drives back for 4 more yards and gets a first down. This is Brennan Presley, who's the smallest guy on the field.
Yeah, it was
against
like
a linebacker in Jaren Camp. Correct.
Yeah, it was like 165 pounds. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm like, where do they find these guys at? How do they develop them into good players? I can't stand playing Oklahoma State because of guys like that. Gundy finds these guys and he develops them, and they make plays like that in games like that. That guy should not be having 8 for 97, but it's not a surprise because that's just what they do. It's what they do.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know what the trajectory of this season, of the rest of this season looks like. I mean, we're taking on a West Virginia team that is proving to be very solid, right? They're not great, but they're definitely not bad. They're an okay team. They're 4-2 in the conference. Their record is what it is at this point in this conference. They're 4-2. We do have them at home. Then we have to go play BYU. That game, getting to go to that game was a lot more exciting 2 weeks ago than it is now. Now it just
they are horrible though. They're
but
not a good team.
Yeah, but now it just feels like a really cold game.
Yeah, you're going to support the team instead of going to potentially celebrate the fact that you're going to be playing for the Big 12 and in the weeks coming after.
And then you host a TCU team that I think we probably beat. So I think West Virginia is, if we can beat West Virginia and end the season with 2 losses, what's that, 10-2? I mean, that's what a lot of people, that's not a bad end. But I got to tell you, I'm not excited to play West Virginia right now. I don't know what the early line is, but this doesn't get me fired up after seeing what they've been doing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, if you look at it at a kind of a big picture outlook for OU, going 10-2 this year will be a success. The problem is the way it started, right? Yeah. Because especially when you beat Texas, you're dreaming college football playoff, national championship, perhaps, right? And I understand that. So, but again, if you step out and you look at it, hey, going 10-2 in Venable's second year, I would think would still put you ahead of schedule to where you should be. And the way the roster is building.
So we've talked about, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast or not. Bobby Bowden said the way you build a program is at first you lose big, then you lose little, then you win little, then you win big. I think it's fair to say that Oklahoma is in the lose little category right now, right? You're losing by a little, a total of 8 points between 2 games against on the road. Great team, good teams don't always win on the road. Great teams do. That's kind of, I think we're in the lose little phase. And to your point, if we can escape with a 10-2 season, that's not a bad place to be. Win over Texas, and whatever Texas ends up doing, we'll have that. I don't know. We're going to talk about the West Virginia game next. Kevin, we're running a little long. Let's move on to Texas Tech, Kansas State. Dude, y'all were rolling in this game. It was very reminiscent of the Houston game, in the sense that you were just rolling. You were in control. Malik Murphy looked very comfortable. Brooks was running well. A.D. Mitchell, Malik Murphy and A.D. Mitchell have a connection, dude. Those guys, they
do.
So I don't know. What do you attribute? I mean, besides the obvious turnovers, what keeps you from just going ahead and finishing these games out? You talked about it. You said, let's just finish the games out.
Yeah. 2 things stand out to me. Number one is, we had a couple chances to really put them away. We didn't take advantage of it. We had some 4th down calls that didn't work, right? Down in the red zone. So we left a couple possessions scoreless, right? When we could have had 3 or we could have had touchdowns. Secondly, they completely abandoned their game plan, right? And the thing about K-State, even if it's Will Howard or the freshman Avery Johnson, they run the same offense. They like to run it. They do some things down the field, but they're looking to run and establish the run no matter who they're playing against. And Texas completely shut it down. I mean, they had absolutely no chance of running the football at any point on Saturday. They brought in Avery Johnson for a little bit. They had a package for him. He tried to run, stuffed him too. They went into halftime and said, okay, forget this. We're going to spread them out and throw the ball. We're going to line up an empty. We talked about the empty formation before, what it does to a defense. And we're just going to throw the ball. That gave them some success, right? Made them competitive. But again, really, man, it's the turnovers. It's the why. Them changing the offense helped them move the ball up and down the field better than they had. But they got into the game after the turnovers. Let's just be real about that. We're up 27-7. Right before we get that first turnover, they score. Get the second turnover.
Remind me, what was the first turnover? Because I thought about the Murphy interception and the Brooks fumble. What was this first turnover?
Well, the first turnover, you know what? I think they got the first touchdown on their own.
Okay.
But the two in the fourth quarter definitely came off the turnovers. The screen pass one.
Yeah, that was a bad. That was a bad pass.
Yeah. You can't, and I get it, man. Take the sack, throw it out of bounds, even if you take a grounding penalty. But you can't just throw it. The running back was getting held up. They read the screen. Defensive tackle held, what you're allowed to do in that situation. You can hold the running back. And usually what they do is they just spike it. Most quarterbacks just throw it at the feet of the running back. It's a complete pass, no penalty. Let's see another day. But he throws it off his back foot just to nobody. But there were 3 K-State guys out there. Intercepts it. They score the very next play. Kickoff. We get it. Third down. We fumble again. Jonathan Brooks, who never fumbles. He fumbles. They get it. They score right on the next play. So literally they ran, 3 plays and scored 2 touchdowns. So just like that, they're back in the game. And like I said, man, we were lucky not to be trailing. We should have been trailing. They somehow missed the extra point that would have given them the lead. Right?
Yeah.
Give it back to them. They go down the field. We get a field goal from Bert Auburn. They go down. We force them to a field goal. They missed the field goal. So I'm thinking like, okay, we just got to get one first down. I knew they had 3 timeouts. I figured we can at least get a first down. We get it to 3rd and 3. They take Brooks off, who was banged up the whole game. I don't know if you saw, he limped off the field several times throughout the game. They try to pitch it outside to TJ Baxter again, which had worked for that long touchdown on 4th down in the first quarter. They stuff it. We punt again, and then they go right down the field. We stop them. They kick the field goal to tie it and send it to overtime. Listen, we saw what happened, right? We get the field goal. They get the possession. They get that big play on 1st down.
Yeah.
So the tight end gets them to the 4-yard line. At this point, I'm like, okay, this game's over. And yeah, we get the stop on. They try to do the quarterback draw. We stuff that. And then he got a couple yards off that, maybe 1 yard off the quarterback draw. The second play, they tried to run the jump pass. They faked the quarterback draw, stopped, jumped, and tried to throw it. And Tavondre Sweat knocked it down. So then it's 3rd down. They try to pass it again. We break it up. It's incomplete. Again, I fully expected them to kick a field goal there. I just, for whatever reason, maybe I'm alone in this, but I did not expect them for a second to go for this. And I see the offense standing out there. Man,
I knew they were going the whole time. I knew they were going the whole time.
Did you?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know why. It caught me off guard when they decided to go for it. And yeah, man, I'm glad we broke it up. We broke up we got pressure on the pass.
Well,
Howard there.
To be fair to K-State, they had a couple things. Number one, are you going to get another chance from the 4-yard line to win the game? All right, that's the first question. Are you going to get another chance from the 4-yard line to just go ahead and win the game? And I think that's really not great odds, but I think it's 50-50. I think it's pretty good. You're flipping a coin to see, can we win the game? And on the road against Texas, I think you take the odds. That's just me. I hear you talking about it differently. Number 2, though, keep in mind, you got a muffed extra point, which is one of the reasons you're in overtime to begin with. And then you've got a missed field goal from not much further out. So you've got that in the back of your mind. It's like, okay, I know we just made a 45-yarder, but we've got 2 that, one that didn't even involve the kicker and one that did. I take our chances with the play. The play call was like I think you talked about it earlier. Texas had a really good defense lined up for that play call. I think the real problem for K-State was the first 2 plays. You hadn't run on them at all in the second half. Well, you hadn't run on them all in the game.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you hadn't run all in the game. So to try to run then just felt weird. Howard can move, get him out, roll him out, give him a chance to throw. I don't understand more why you don't roll a quarterback out wide side and give the option. If he sees it, he can hit it. If not, try to make a run for that corner.
Something happen.
Teams don't do that, so maybe it's not effective. Maybe I'm just the only one out there that thinks that's a cool play to run. But so I think those first 2 plays put them behind kind of the 8 ball, and then Texas just stepped up, made the plays, and won the game. And here's the thing, man. You're going to be ranked. Alabama did win.
I don't know what the college football playoffs rankings are gonna be, but the AP poll is out. I don't know if you saw
what's it got you at? What's it have you at? And what's it have Oklahoma at, by the way?
Texas is still at 7. There was no movement really in the top 7.
Okay.
Oklahoma is 17 right now. Oklahoma State is 15.
OU's 17.
17.
OSU's 15.
Yeah.
Texas is 7. Okay. Who else? Okay, you got Ohio State, Michigan. They have to play each other. You've got Florida State, Washington, Oregon. Is Oregon ranked ahead of you?
Yeah, here's what we got. Georgia, number 1. Michigan is 2. Ohio State is 3. Florida State is 4. Washington is 5. Oregon is 6. They still have Oregon ahead of Texas. So Texas is 7. Alabama is 8. Penn State is 9. Ole Miss is 10.
I'm good with that. Okay, hey, we talked about this before. Let's do it right now while you have that list in front of you. Let me see if I've got this list. The last time we did this, we did a playoff ranking of what we thought the playoffs were going to be. I don't see it right now. But anyway, as of right now, any changes to you in your playoffs? Like,
I don't think so, man. I think right now, and again, I'm not looking ahead. You know me, man. I'm not even looking past TCU next week. But just say Texas finishes the rest of the regular season and wins the conference, right? It's still going to be tough because more than likely either Washington or Oregon are going to win the Pac-12 at this point, right? If Washington wins, then they're a shoe-in, right? That would mean they would have gone undefeated. So they're going to get in. Ohio State and or Michigan, right? One of those two teams is going to lose to each other. Florida State, really Texas needs somebody else to lose if they want a chance to get into the playoffs. That's how I see it as of right now.
Florida State plays Florida and Notre Dame. Let's look at that schedule real quick.
I don't think they play Notre Dame.
They don't play Notre Dame this year.
Do they? You might be right about that. I forgot Notre Dame plays the ACC schedule, so
they might not. Let me see. No, yeah, they play Miami. So they play Miami.
They still have Miami and Florida.
Miami and Florida. Okay, so hold on. They've got Miami and Florida.
Yeah, and then North Alabama. So basically, they have Miami this upcoming week, North Alabama, and then they play Florida.
Oregon has SC and Washington in a. Well, they have Oregon State too, though. Although Oregon State.
Have Oregon State, yeah.
They have USC, Washington,
they got
Oregon
USC,
State,
Arizona State, and then Oregon State, and then potentially more than likely the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah.
The Oregon State game is at Oregon too, so it's a home game for them.
Who does let's see. Who does Florida State? Louisville? They don't have divisions? So Florida State.
I thought they did, but I don't know how the ACC.
I don't think they do, dude. I don't think they do. I think they're playing Louisville. It looks like, by all intents and purposes, they're going to play a Louisville team. So here's the problem.
Florida State's already in the ACC championship game. It's already in.
The problem is if you have to play Oklahoma State in the Big 12. That's not a great matchup for you guys. Not a great matchup for you guys.
No, I don't like the matchup either.
Except you have a good run defense. So with a good run defense, I think you've got a good chance.
And that's the thing, dude. It's not Ollie Gordon as good as he is, right? Like you've heard me say all year long.
No, it was Bowman. It was Bowman. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the passing game that scares me.
Okay, so let's real quick playoffs. If you had to pick the 4 playoff teams by the time, not today, but by when the season's over, who do you have?
I would say Georgia.
So Michigan. So you're saying Georgia beats Bama in the SEC championship game?
Yeah, I would say that as of right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say Georgia, and then I would say Michigan. I think they barely beat Ohio State, although this Ohio State team is not the one that's gotten pushed around by Michigan the last few years. I think this is a tougher Ohio State team, but I would still pick Michigan.
Does Michigan? I mean, look, you got to be serious about this, dude. They don't have their signs. Like, all jokes aside, if, Ohio State is not going to be telegraphing the plays that they're going to run.
That is true. No, that's a really good point.
Seriously. And it makes you consider those games.
Yeah.
Like, because it really felt at times that Michigan knew where Ohio State was going with the ball.
Yeah.
And
it's
so whatever. Okay, Georgia, you say Michigan. I think all right, go ahead, and then I'll give you my 4.
okay, and I got Florida State just because I think they'll go undefeated.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna leave an undefeated conference champion out. And then honestly, right now, I don't see what Texas can do to get over Oregon if Oregon wins out. If they beat Oregon State, and if they win, get a rematch victory over Washington in the Pac-12 championship game,
which we think they will.
Correct. I don't see how Texas could get in. So I think Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Oregon.
Okay. So here's the deal. I think it's Michigan or Ohio State. So for the sake of this conference, I'll stick with you. So we don't have to argue about it. So I'm going to say Michigan, and I'm going to say Florida State because I just don't. I really don't see them losing on their schedule. I think they're a good team, and I don't think their schedule's hard enough. Louisville's fine, but they're not great. Okay, here's where I think it gets a little hairy, though. I think it's going to be the winner of Washington, Oregon. So let's say Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay, but what happens? And this is what I want to see happen. I want to see this happen. I want to see Bama beat Georgia. So you have a one-loss Bama team that won the SEC up against a one-loss Texas team that won the Big 12. Are they going to keep the SEC out of the playoff? Will they do it, Kevin?
I don't think they would, man. I honestly don't. Even though
Texas, they can't put Alabama in over Texas. They can't do it. They can't do it.
They've had us ranked over you guys after y'all beat us.
Not rankings, man. I'm not talking about rankings. I'm talking about playoffs, right? To use
this committee. I just wonder.
Think about that, though. That's a real thing, dude. This could happen. This is Armageddon for them. If they have to leave out the SEC, if Bama beats Georgia and everybody else wins and Texas wins out, which against Oklahoma State is not a given. So I agree with you. That's not a given. You could just as easily go and then it's a moot point. But you beat Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game. It's one loss Bama, one loss Texas, but Texas has the win. I can't imagine a scenario where they leave the SEC except for that.
Man, obviously I would love that as a Texas fan. But man, I don't know, man. They love the SEC. They love it. And they're going to give them so much credit for that win against Georgia. This is Georgia, on a 30-game winning streak?
Doesn't matter, dude. Head to head.
No, I
Alabama. Alabama. It wasn't a neutral site game. You didn't have guys hurt, or they didn't have guys hurt. There is literally no rationale that can be used to put Alabama ahead of a one-loss Texas team.
Man,
who lost to Oklahoma on a neutral field when Oklahoma was ranked in the top 10. Like,
I completely agree, but man, this committee, you just don't know who's on it and how they think.
Kevin says Alabama gets in over Texas.
If they beat Georgia, I think they would put them in.
I can't believe that.
But it's happened before, man. Yeah.
Wow. That's fascinating. Listen, where Oklahoma's at now, I don't know that I'm necessarily I can't honestly say I'm rooting for Texas, but at the same time, I am rooting for that scenario. I would like to see. Well, and the others are chalk, right? I mean, Michigan or Ohio State, that's chalk. Florida State's chalk. Oregon or Washington, that's chalk. I do think it's going to be Oregon. I just think they're really, really good. But
good football team, man, really good.
Real quick on the Pac-12, do they play a home game? It's not a home game for it. They still play a neutral site game, right? For the
it's in Vegas at the Allegiant Field.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, Allegiant Stadium.
So on a neutral field, I think it's Oregon. So here's the deal: Bama can beat Georgia. Like the Bama we saw last night can beat Georgia.
Yeah.
Man, it's fascinating. I don't think it's the same Bama team that y'all played, but I think that's a BS argument. Like, two things can be true. Number one, they can be a better team than they were back then. But number two, they still lost. Like those, it's just It's just the case.
I completely agree, but the way these committees think, man, the recency bias of seeing Alabama beat
I don't
Georgia,
care. I don't care. That's such BS if
right?
that happens. You'll hear me defending Texas on the Boomer People podcast. Might be the only time.
One and only. Well, I'll take what I can get.
Kevin, this was a great show, dude. Really, really good show. Terrible, terrible game for Oklahoma, but a good episode of the Boomer Bevo podcast. Big win for Texas. Here we are, going into week 11. Week 11, is that right? We're going into week 11, and y'all have a legitimate path forward for the National College Football Playoff, which would be really, really cool for Texas. Oklahoma is hoping we don't have to go to the Alamo Bowl against USC because that would just suck. So anyway, Kevin,
would it though?
I don't think.
I mean, it wouldn't. Caleb Williams would play.
He doesn't play, does he? I don't think so.
You wouldn't think so. I think it'd be fun. I mean, if he were to play, I mean, you guys get to take all your frustrations out on Lincoln Riley. It would be like the biggest non-playoff bowl game of the season.
Dude, he just fired Alex Grinch, man. They're going to have some amazing defensive coordinator in there. I'll tell you the bigger problem with them is their strength and conditioning. Benny Wiley. I mean, he should fire both of them. They're not tough enough on the trenches. They're not tough enough in tackling. I don't know. It's just a bad deal. But anyway, I digress. Kevin, we went a little long, but I think this episode deserved it. If you're out there and you're still listening, thank you so very much. We love everybody tuning into the Boomer Bevo podcast. It continues to be super fun, and we just thank you for listening. Kevin, have a great evening. Boomer.